Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Venom, issue number 27. This is a good book that actually gets us a whole lot closer to understanding the mind of Donny Cates. I mean, when push comes to shove, we don't really know that much about him, do we? Is he man? Is he symbiote? Is he both? You can tell I rehearsed that one, right? Anyway, let's get talking about who made this comic book, and we'll talk more about the book itself. So Donny Cates is the writer. Juan Gedeon is on art. Hoping to butcher that name too much. You want to know why the colors pop on this? Because Jesus Abratov is on the colors. Yeah, boom. Let's talk about VC's Clayton Cowles being on letters. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is one of the better lettered issues that I've seen. Every single time that a word is bold-faced, it is a word that you would emphasize when you're actually in a conversation with someone. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's close to that, but not exactly that. This one, it was perfect on that. Absolutely perfect. So Clayton Cowles, freaking fantastic, phenomenal job. Ryan Stegman, J.P. Meyer, and Frank Martin do the cover. There's no variant cover, but Anthony Gambino does the design. So let's move on from there, shall we? We have got freaking Eddie goes into the Earth 1610 universe. That is the ultimate universe, the universe of the Ultimates, and the original universe where Miles Morales came from, and all that good stuff, right? Well, this is a little bit freaky. Plus, there are big giant red dragon symbols everywhere. The symbol of Null, and Virus is there. And Virus is interesting in this because while Eddie and even Dylan, apparently the symbiote as well, doesn't know that they're in a different dimension, Virus knows right away. Was that a slip? Or is he actually that worldly? Who knows? But he gets kind of a Darth Vader moment in here, which I'm not going to complain about. A lot of the so-called reveals in this are mostly done in the shadows, and that can get frustrating, but we did get two reveals. We got one that didn't waste any time whatsoever. The other one that did, I wouldn't say waste time, it was more like time well used. The reveal there was interesting. I'm going to get into all that because I'm going to be talking about spoilers towards the end of this issue. I will tell you to piss off politely if you didn't read this comic book yet and you're just wondering if the comic book was good. Yeah, the comic book was pretty damn good. Basically, you have, I don't really know that I want to get too much more into the comic book itself. I'm obviously going to, but in general, this is basically what would happen if everybody, I think, who's in the comic book world, or at least I hope everybody has known somebody who's just really good with comic books. Like, he knows his comic books, or she, it could be a she, who knows. But in the 80s, it was mostly just us guys reading the comic book. So I never experienced a female, a girl, who was ever into comic books the way that I was, or the way that some of my friends were. And I always had to keep that on the low because, I was on a lot of sports teams when I was a kid. I couldn't be seen hanging out with the freaking nerds, even though I was an undercover nerd myself. That's right. I infiltrated that world, nonetheless. While I was sometimes that guy who knew about all the cool comics back in the day, sometimes there were others who they knew a world of comic books that I wasn't familiar with. Like the guys who knew the European comic books, and they just, hey man, check it out, man, the Transformers from over in the UK. Look at all this run. I'm like, oh my God, it's an entire wealth of new, like 100 books of new Transformers books that I've never read before. Wow. And they're written differently. They're not written by Budiansky. Like, okay, let me check this world out, baby. Death's Head and all that good stuff, right? So this is basically what it's like to meet that kid who not only was really good with the comic books back in the day, but he wrote fan fiction. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, yeah, he's a fanfic guy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, just out of curiosity, what is honestly the difference between writing fanfic for Marvel or actually writing for Marvel? Oh, yeah, a paycheck. That's really the only difference. There is no difference. If I were to write Marvel Comics right now and tell them, hey, don't sue me, it's just, whatever, and they didn't sue me and it was cool, it was just fanfic, honestly, what would be the difference? It would be the level of the writer. It would be how good the writer is. So I don't subscribe to the idea that, oh, it's like fanfic. This is fanfic. This is literally hanging out with the kid who saw Batman Beyond. Yeah, the comparison is real. And you didn't see Batman Beyond. And he sits there and is just like, dude, you ever see Batman Beyond? No. Whoa, 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 oh my God, dude, let me tell you something. Look, so this kid, Terry McGinnis, he's like, boom, and he sees Batman in the future, and it's like, oh my God. And like, that's what this is kind of like. Meeting that kid who sings it, and you're just like, what? And you sit down, you're watching the TV show, and your bud's right next to you. It's like, okay, watch this scene. And you don't get mad because he's always, pointing, watch, because it's always really good. Or, pay attention to this scene. It's going to be important later. Stuff like that. Dude, I've never had a problem with that whatsoever. And that's what I'm seeing here. All right, enough. Spoilers from this point on. So, bugger off. All right? That's like my polite way of saying piss off. Anyway, go away. Go away. Here's the spoilers right now. So, we come to find out that this is the Earth 1610 universe. The Avengers of this universe are here, but they're symbiotes. And it seems like they're completely made of symbiotes. They don't have a symbiote on them. They actually are a symbiote, because the Captain America version of the symbiote here, he gets blown away by anti-symbiote tech, but it comes right back. The symbiote doesn't fall off of him. He would have to essentially be vaporized, I would imagine. Like, this is supposed to be a disruptor, right? But the whole thing is symbiote. There was no human underneath. Remember, at the end of this comic book, those agents, those Agent Venom guys, that's right, there's a bunch of Agent Venoms who show up, and they're just like, oh, you were human, so that's why we picked up on you. That's kind of what we do. So these guys have symbiotes on them. Now, maybe the Codex, meaning the Null-looking figure towards the middle end of this, maybe he's made the symbiotes actually not need regular humans anymore, or they've absorbed them like the poisons have, or whatever. I don't know, but boom, that is interesting. Or maybe it's like Sleeper. I just need the body. I don't know what's going on yet. But maybe it's almost like, if you have a symbiote, but you are a human, we're trying to exterminate humans perhaps, or, how dare you have a symbiote on you? You're enslaving that symbiote. So these bad guys might not actually be bad guys. We don't know yet, but I'm very interested in finding out. What I do know is that this is very cool, being able to see this new world and what a world taken over by Null could look like. Extra motivation for Brock to get his A game in order for when the King in Black shows up. That's right, that event. Looking forward to that event. So soon after Carnage, the absolute carnage that has just come out recently. Really looking forward to this King in Black stuff. When your event is really just a setup for another event, I can't say that I've ever seen that before, but what I can say is that's pretty epic. Like, I guess the most you can combine this with is when the Marauders, not the current comic book, but the Marauders thing, the Mutant Massacre, really only led up to Inferno. That's what I'm talking about. Because both really epic events and out of this world, freaking crazy events that shouldn't have worked, and yet somehow we can always refer back to them. So is that what this King in Black thing is going to look like? Anyway, listen, the thing with Cates is the guy is huge on tropes, and you know me, I'm not comics tropes, or I'm just gonna do a freaking 20-minute episode about tropes in comic. No, but I will talk about the tropes in comic books. I'm familiar with them. So when you have an alternate universe where every so often some new character will show up, but it's actually a character who we know, and maybe it's a character who died in the past, like the whole Gwenpool thing. Gwenpool comes back and turns out it's actually Spider-Gwen. It's actually Gwen Stacy, who, from the Earth 52, I think it was, but in actuality, she died in Earth 616, and it's like, wait, what's going on? That's really cool. I love this, right? And also like Batman Beyond. Hey, Barbara Gordon's in this, I'm sure, but when is she going to show up? Oh my God, she's the new commissioner. Okay, that makes sense. It's a really good legacy from her father, and bing, 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 and whatever, and she used to be Batgirl. All right, I like it, and yeah, we see stuff like that. What happened to the original Robin? Oh, that thing with the Joker. That was a really sad freaking episode that made every single one of us, like, ugly cry. You know what I'm saying? So tropes can work. In this particular case, when we see that Anne Weying, the original She-Venom, is at least the Agent Venom that's in the front of the party, the one who was doing all the talking, that was unexpected. and seeing them smile at each other. Apparently they don't have quite the same history that they had before. So this is kind of like a Spider-Gwen whose Peter Parker died as the Lizard. Meanwhile, our Peter Parker-ish, not in 1214, but in 616, he sees, Gwen Stacy died because the Green Goblin dropped her and he accidentally broke her spine. Oops, it was an accident. It was an accident. Anyhow, yeah, I see that exact same thing happening here. Is that a bad thing? Not by any stretch of the imagination. Not by any. I'm enjoying seeing this alternate universe. I enjoy seeing the progression of this story because we are seeing Eddie understanding more and more what the stakes are if the King in Black does return and does actually win. So yes, this looks epic. All of this looks epic. Is this going to be a throwaway story? Possibly, because we honestly don't want the Earth 616 universe to be taken over by the symbiotes. The humans better damn well be somewhere. We don't want there to just be like 20 humans lying around. Maybe there's like the Matrix. There's a new Zion, like deep underground. They're in the sewers, for crying out loud. Who knows? But I'm telling you, man, this going forward, there's so much in here. There's so much inside of this comic book that's just like, to me, your imagination, our imagination should just be going wild with what the possibilities are. It's like a choose your own adventure, but we're not turning the pages. Kate's is, and he's going to tell us which adventure is being chosen for us, because there are a lot of possibilities here. There's so many different directions he could go with this. Which way? We'll find out next issue, I guess, right? 28. I'll be there for it. All right, guys, I'm out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.